All right, everybody, here we go with the notes for Chapter 2, Using Your Instrument. Of course, we're talking about your mouth hole. We're talking about your voice. And we're going to do some various exercises, at least talk about them in this series of lectures. And we'll get to do some of those exercises when we get together for our class meeting. But we'll go through the notes, we'll go through the things that the book talks about, and in this video, we're going to do section 1 of your notes. So, it's all about breathing. Your voice is, in essence, a wind instrument. Think of your vocal cords and everything as kind of like reeds, if you will. And just like any other wind instrument, it is essential that you know how to play your instrument properly. In other words, you need to know how to breathe. What do you mean we need to know how to breathe? We breathe all the time. It's how we survive. Well, there's proper ways of breathing that help you to be able to get the most out of your voice. Here's what proper breathing does. It provides support for your voice. Instead of straining your vocal cords, it actually boosts them, makes them stronger. It allows for emotional expression because you're in control of how that emotion comes out. It allows for switching between speaking softly and speaking with power. Breathing also makes possible the subtleties of communicating a broad range of information and emotion. The more breath that you have to be able to communicate things like power or exhaustion, the power of your breath is going to help you to be able to convey those sorts of emotions and attitudes. Arthur Joseph says that vocal presentation is the way in which others hear and respond to you. So the way that you say words is going to leave an impression on the person listening to you that they are interpreting the words that you say and the way that you say them to try to figure out what exactly the message is, the connotation of that message. We can tell when somebody is angry or sad or happy or is passionate about something or doesn't really care a whole lot, all in the way that we say the words that we speak. The way that you are perceived by others is directly related to your perception of yourself. Now, this is an important thing. We're kind of getting away from the idea of acting and the way of interpretation, and we're kind of looking at you yourself. You can't ever completely take yourself out of the equation because you're the one whose voice is communicating the message. And to get a little Stuart Smalley on you, you need to kind of think and believe that you're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. You have to have a certain amount of confidence in your ability to be able to do reads and voiceovers. You have to have enough of a positive image about yourself that you realize that you have the skill, you have the talent, that you understand the scope of the story that's being told, and are able to take all of those things and craft it into a skill in which the end product is the way that you speak the words. Breath control for the voice actor. Well, the diaphragm is the real source of support for proper breathing. In other words, don't breathe from your chest. Don't just try to fill your lungs with air and then do the thing, because that's not going to give you the most flexibility. It's not going to give you the most power. It's not going to give you strength and endurance. Using your diaphragm is going to help you to be able to have all those things and a whole lot more control of what you're doing. Allowing your diaphragm to expand while inhaling allows your lungs to expand more completely and allows you to be filled up with a larger quantity of air. And that can be a very useful thing in terms of your sentence structure, in terms of being able to say a whole lot of things in a short amount of time. Very, very important to be able to control your breathing, and having control of your diaphragm is going to be a great and effective way to be able to do that. Good breath control begins with a relaxed body. When we talk about breathing exercises and trying to bring in as much air as we can, what tends to happen is a lot of times we tense up, and that's the opposite of what we want to do. We want to get to where our body feels relaxed, it's comfortable, that it is ready to be able to do the job that we call it to do. Tenseness, usually caused by stress, will constrict your vocal cords. You can hear when somebody is stressed. The voice sounds a little more strident. It sounds like things are being pushed in a unnatural sort of way. So you want to relax. You want to take it easy. If things are making you anxious and your character doesn't call for being anxious, then do your best to get rid of that stress and anxiety before you start your recording session. And sometimes, actually many times, all it takes is taking a few seconds and doing some deliberate breathing in and out in order for you to be able to get to that point that you're relaxed and you're ready to go. Shallow breathing will require frequent breaths when working a script, while breathing from your diaphragm gives you greater power behind your voice, and it will allow you to speak longer. The more air that you can take in and have the ability to control that air, the more versatile you're going to be in your vocal delivery. Now, at this point, the textbook has a couple of breathing exercises, and the plan is to try to go over some of those when we get to our class meeting together. But I would encourage you to go ahead and take a look at those and maybe even try practicing just breathing in and out and feeling your diaphragm as that breathing takes place, so that you can kind of sense and experience exactly what's happening inside your body. Breathe conversationally. Only take in enough air for what you need to say. So we've talked about taking in a good quantity of air by using your diaphragm, but you don't always need a large quantity of air. What can happen is if you take in too much air for what it is that you want to say, by the time that you get to the end of what you say, you let out the rest of the air, and it sounds unnatural and it sounds forced. So try to only take in just enough for the particular sentence, the particular thought that you're trying to put out. Breath points in most copy usually occur after a portion of a thought has been stated or a question has been asked. So go back to your English class, your punctuation marks, your periods, your question marks, your exclamation points, your colons and semicolons, points of ellipse, dashes. Generally, that's going to be where you take a breath, where you take a break. Keep sentence to sentence, keep thought to thought, so that the flow of your sentence is more easily understood. And it also gives you a sense of how to pace yourself, the rhythm that you need to have in order to speak the words that you intend to speak. In order to find the natural breath points in the script, you need to understand the story, your character, and various other details that are in the script. So you need to know what's going on in the scope of the story of the script. You need to know what your character is all about, how the character relates to the rest of the story, to other characters, if there's more than one character. And to find the natural breath points is not just like we talked about with the sentence structure, but also with a particular character. If you determine that a character has a more strident sort of delivery, or perhaps is in a rush sort of state, so the character sounds like it needs to catch its breath, you can do those things because you understand what is happening over the course of the particular piece that you're working on. One exercise that we'll do when we get together is the death rattle. The death rattle is where you take in as much air as you can, and then as you exhale, you say, you kind of it out, like kind of a but you continue that until you are just about out of breath. And what happens is when you get to that point where you have very little breath left in your body and you're still making that noise, you get this kind of grovelly sound, and you get what the author calls the death rattle. So if you were to do it right now, you were to breathe in and then you exhale. So you might have heard how I got that gravelly sound at the end of that ah. And what you're trying to do is control the amount of air that comes out at any given point in time, and you're trying to make that ah last as long as you possibly can. We'll play around with that some when we get together for our class session. Right now, though, we'll take a break, and when you click on part B of the video, we'll continue on with section 2 of the notes.